Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the hybrid lecture for March 28, 2016. The objectives for this lecture include reviewing feedback from the program evaluation papers, talking about the process component of the program evaluation paper, talking about the content portion of the program evaluation paper, and then providing a homework exercise with regard to the Excel spreadsheet for SSRDs and talking about how to utilize that spreadsheet. Let's get started. The program evaluation component, first of all, it's a good idea to have your papers out as you look or listen to this video. For the program evaluation paper, you can have a qualitative and a quantitative outcome variable, or you can just decide to do the quantitative. That's your choice. Nonetheless, it's advised that you use an existing scale for the measurement of the quantitative variable. So if you're measuring developmental skills or you're developing socialization or anxiety, find an existing scale and provide a citation in text and in the reference section for that existing scale or instrument. If you need some assistance looking for an existing instrument, I'm happy to provide some assistance. Or you can speak with Dr. Astroff, who is the social work librarian in our downtown campus. Ladies and gentlemen, please make sure that you're defining your variables. Some people still don't have the name followed by a conceptual definition, and that's very important. You should probably, when you're talking about your variable, lead the paragraph off in the first sentence with the name and then follow it with the second sentence with the conceptual definition of that variable. Also, with regard to the program evaluation feedback, who, where, and when the data is collected is important content for the outcome evaluation section. As we discussed in class, the organization of this section is important, and it's very similar to the organization of your SSRD. So pull out your SSRD papers and sort of follow that format. I have to say that organization is a meaningful part of the grading rubric. It allows me to make sure that you have all that information in your paper, so I try and provide an outline for you to place that information. A brief timeline is helpful and is required for your evaluability section. A timeline can be done in a table or bullet point form, and it can be included in this portion or the evaluability section. But if you choose to include a table, well, it's not an if anymore, right? When you include your table, please make sure that you include it in the body of your paper. Now is a good time to check for consistency in your paper, especially if you have other people who are writing on different sections of the paper. For example, at the end of your agency description, it might be a good idea to just introduce your outcome variable that you're going to measure. One sentence. We are going to measure weight loss amongst people who use the food pantry and are trying to lose weight. You don't necessarily have to discuss them, but you just have to name them and prepare the reader for when they will see this same outcome in the outcome section. We call that consistency, ladies and gentlemen, vertical consistency in your paper. Also, with regard to the program evaluation section, the program evaluation section should be about 99% your original thought and content. This section should talk about data collection only and nothing else. There should be no quotes or references from other studies unless the references are used to support your research design. Several papers that I'm reading have information that clouds, i.e. fluff, your data collection plan. I just need for you to tell me what you're going to do. Don't really want to talk about what other people have done. Don't really want to talk about how other people define variables. There needs to be no justification in that sense. I just need to know your sound data collection plan. The only mention of intervention should be if the data is going to be collected during the time frame of the intervention. This is a very important point, ladies and gentlemen. You need to understand that when you are collecting data at baseline, the procedures and the steps may be different from when you collect them during intervention, because during intervention, you know that you're going to have access to your clients. But let's say you have a 01, X, 02, 03, 04 design. There's no guarantee that your clients are going to be in the program at points 03 and 04. All right, so this is an important point. We haven't discussed it in class. The data collection during the intervention versus return to baseline or post-intervention is different. So think about it. Let's discuss it if necessary in the next class, but make sure you specify the difference between collecting data during intervention and collecting data pre-intervention or post-intervention in your papers. In closing, with regard to feedback, ladies and gentlemen, please use subject headings. Really need to see those. It helps me as a reader. It helps guide me through your papers. Please make sure that your outcome variable reflects something that can be reasonably changed by the intervention and is not service utilization or client satisfaction. And we talked about this last class. Please include your syntax. And ladies and gentlemen, it's a great idea that after writing your syntax, say O1, X, O2, then in the sentence, explain O1. In another sentence, explain X. In the following sentence, explain O2. This is a good time to reference your data collection point, when the data will be collected and who will collect it. This is a good outline. So when you're discussing O1, you might talk about who's going to collect it, where it's going to be collected, and when it's going to be collected. And that sort of covers some of the other points that I discussed earlier. All right, let's talk a little bit about the process or the content evaluation. Remember that the instructions express that you can do a content or process evaluation piece. You don't have to do both, one or the other. Process evaluation explores a process that is working well and that you want to emulate, or a process that does not work well and it needs to be improved. Content is very similar, but it looks at a component of the program. So let's think of baking a cake as an example. A process might be the way in which you mix the ingredients, whether you use a spoon versus a blender, when you put in the milk versus when you put in the eggs. But the content is more so focused on the ingredients and what are included or what is not included. How many eggs do you include, 2 or 3? How much butter do you include, 2 sticks or 4 sticks? And so in content, you're looking more at what that program does or does not include. Processes, you're looking at processes that exist, that work well. Oftentimes in social work, we think about things like exit processes, intake processes, processes for referrals, things of that nature. Focus on operations of the program. A process question might include, is the program model being faithfully implemented? Are clients being retained for the full course of the treatment? Are there barriers to service for the clients in the program? Is there a process for the food pantry that needs to be refined? Is there a process that is inhibiting seniors from participating? Feel free to email questions or schedule some time in person or phone time to talk about this. I'm more than happy to try and bring further clarification to this piece. Content evaluation. You might include what programs or services are offered, whether there's any duplication of services or interrelationships between programs. This is also a great time in the content evaluation portion to explore any interrelationships between programs. Do seniors utilize the food pantry? If not, why? Does daycare utilize the food pantry, and how is that related to some of the developmental needs of young people? In addition to what is included, should be a vivid description of how the data will be collected, from whom, and the rationale behind these decision points. Now, the data collection for the content and process component should include qualitative methods, and we've talked about 3: focus groups, interviews, and observations. And ladies and gentlemen, I'll just go back and make a quick point. I don't think that you should look for things to put in your paper, but if you have some rationale as to why you decided who's going to collect the data, or rationale around why it's going to be collected in a certain way or when it's going to be collected, share that in your paper, because that's helpful. It demonstrates to me that you give it some thought in terms of developing this data collection plan. So I'll go to my NFL example. Say in the NFL example, I was looking at the process as a part of the process evaluation of telecounseling. Specifically, I want to explore telecounseling that occurred during the season and at a time of crisis. So I've narrowed down a specific process within a larger area or component of service delivery. Now, say that I want to focus on I could talk to the providers, I could talk to the clients, or I could talk to both. And this is important for your papers. Who are you going to collect the data from? I decide that I want to talk to the clients. And in your work, be specific as to who you who you want or who will be providing you with data. Please make sure that you can include this content. Nonetheless, I want to talk to the players, and if spouses or others are included in the crisis, then I want to talk to them as well. Due to the sensitivity of the subject matter, I will conduct interviews. I would like to conduct them face-to-face, but due to cost, I will utilize Skype instead. So my Skype interview might ask the following questions and include them in the outcome section. Discuss the positives of using telecounseling when a crisis occurs. Discuss the negatives of using telecounseling when a crisis occurs. What can be done to follow up a crisis-based telecounseling session? Notice, one, that these questions are open-ended and cannot be answered via yes or no. So in your papers, you should have at least 5 focus group or interview questions as samples. You can put them as bullet points. All right? Now, I'll say here I'm going to discuss evaluability in our next class, but I'm going to go ahead and discuss it now. Evaluability is basic. Is your design pragmatic? Is it practical? Can it be done? There might be portions of it that might be difficult to execute, and it's okay to say that. Are there political issues that might be involved? And are there any ethical issues that may be involved? For example, are you withholding treatment or are you delaying treatment? You may want to say in your paper that none of these exist, but I'll be honest with you, ladies and gentlemen, when you're doing an evaluation, there are going to be some issues around the ability to conduct the evaluation, and you need to pull those out and talk about those. You can also talk about how you can address them, or you can let us know, hey, right now, I haven't thought of those ways. How might they impact one's ability to conduct the outcome evaluation that you propose? Can this evaluation be carried out given the various stakeholders that are associated with this program? Are there any pitfalls, and are there any other issues that should be anticipated? You might wrestle with this section a little bit, but give it your best. And again, if it's something that's challenges you, that's no big deal. It challenges everyone. Let me know, and I'll help you out as much as possible. Lastly, ladies and gentlemen, talk about homework for next week, and that's in your Excel spreadsheet. First of all, the blank Excel spreadsheet, when I was testing it, did not work. So the one with data points already in it, what I want you to do is to copy and paste that to the right side of that Excel spreadsheet. That means on the other side of the blank ones, I want you to enter your data points. Now you can only enter 15 points of your data, so I want you to enter that. Now I know that some of you have an ABA design, and I tried to cut and paste the cell and it doesn't work. I tried to catch up with Dr. Harris and I have not yet. So what I need for you to do is to just enter the data for the AB portion, and we will deal with those who have an ABA design. We will deal with that return to baseline later. Make sure, please, that you print out your work. I know that you've been very diligent about turning work in on time, so please make sure that you bring this work to class. Please make sure that you take the time to enter this data. Let's see who can figure out how to graph your data. Now we're talking. Maybe there'll be a little something for people who can figure out how to graph their data. Most of all, ladies and gentlemen, have a great week. Thank you for tuning in, and I'm looking forward to having class with you next week and continuing the great work that you're doing. Take care. Bye-bye.